Well, this is Jared with Stampede Blue, and this is your Indianapolis Colts post-game wrap. The Colts won today at home against the Houston Texans. The final score was 27-20. And frankly, one of the more confusing football games I've watched this season, given how the Colts have played. Typically, if you haven't watched many Colts games this year, the Colts tend to not play very well defensively or really offensively in the first half of football games, and then tend to come out after the half and do their thing. And then today, the defense came out playing lights out, and the offense was too. And the Colts are up 14-0, and all of a sudden the day seems like it's going to be easy. And then with just a few minutes left in the first half, 10 points appeared on the board for the Houston Texans. And all of a sudden we had ourselves a ball game. I don't know about anybody else, but it was all fun and games until you look down and you're only up 4 against Deshaun Watson's not a comfortable lead. And then in the second half, sort of more of the same for the Colts offensively. Generally, the Colts have had great offensive games pretty much the last 5 out of the last 6 weeks, I'd say. The Colts defense, however, I understand though, so let me say this, the Colts defense has been the letdown lately. However, 2 out of the last 4 weeks, you've played Deshaun Watson, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I say that to say that Deshaun Watson was 33 for 41 for 373 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did not throw any interceptions. He was sacked 5 times. Houston was not able to run the ball. They had 23 carries for 83 yards, about 4 yards carry. Duke Johnson had 11. Their leading receiver was a running back. And you've heard me say things like, if your running back is your leading receiver, you're typically not going to win those football games, right? Duke Johnson had 11 receptions for 106 yards. But yeah, Watson lost a fumble. Cootie lost that fumble that ended the game. And Duke Johnson had a fumble, but he didn't lose it. So when it comes to, Houston turned the ball over twice, the Colts didn't turn the ball over, we're winning football games. What do we know, right? And I say that also to say, hey, Philip Rivers was 22 for 28 for 228 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he was only sacked 1 time. Arguably and statistically, this was Philip Rivers' best game out of his 5 out of his last 6 games. Rookie running back Jonathan Taylor, 16 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. So a sigh of relief for Colts fans that Jonathan Taylor was able to come back after his early season woes and to lead the Colts in rushing. It's really been really important, and his work has been fantastic. And then hats off today to Zach Pascal. Had a career day, 5 catches for 79 yards, 2 touchdowns, some beautiful looking catches too, some really well placed balls out of Philip Rivers, right where they had to be. And it's an exciting time to be an Indianapolis Colt at 10-4. Something to think about. Just a couple years ago, friends, we were talking about one of the greatest quarterback prospects the NFL had seen retiring at 30 and leaving a very young Frank Reich and Chris Ballard in terms of their head coaching and general managership of the Colts, leaving them with a bare cupboard at quarterback. And fortunately for the Colts, they saw what we saw, and after Brissett played last season, they said, we got to get us a veteran quarterback because we've got some potential to make some noise. And then along comes Philip Rivers. And early in this season, he was himself, the gunslinger. He's got this weird delivery. He's throwing, not really throwing very many touchdowns. He's throwing some interceptions and kind of concerning some people. But if you really think about this team, then the games they've lost this year were that stinker to Jacksonville, which is annual. That happens every year. And then they lost a game Anthony Costanzo didn't play, a game T.Y. Hilton didn't play in, and they only have lost 4 games. So the idea is, as long as the Colts are healthy, don't turn the ball over, run the ball effectively, counter what the opponent's doing on offense, Colts should win and have done so at a high clip this year. Obviously, A win like this was sort of the most. A lot of people are going to say it's the most important game of the year. I just argue that the next game is the most important game of the year, and that getting caught up in individual games is what causes you to like over prepare and under rest, and then you just play horribly because you're too concerned about a single outcome. The reality is yeah, the Colts need to win this game, but they also like needed Tennessee to lose, and that didn't happen. But yeah, the Colts next week play on the road in Pittsburgh against the Steelers team that we've been calling overrated. So something to think about as you're elated that you're 10-4 and that I don't even care about what happens next week. Steelers could beat the Colts 100-0. I want to care. The Colts should actually win that game. Just throwing that out there. So this has been Jared with Stampede Blue. This has been your Indianapolis Colts post-game wrap. The Colts are 10-4, hanging in there in the AFC South, are otherwise a wild card team trying to make some noise. And I can assure you, and you're going to hear this a lot moving forward, no one wants to play the Colts. You just don't. You just don't. You don't want to play the Colts. You will play anyone else, but you do not want to play the Colts. Especially like the Colts were getting some people back healthy this week, and then to my knowledge, we didn't like lose anybody. So when you rattle off 10 wins in 14 games, have a couple games left, one of which is considered like a game, for example, Stephen Reed and I had said we weren't going to beat the Steelers earlier this year. And now we're kind of like, I don't know. It can be beat. So anyway, this has been Jared with Stampede Blue. This has been your Indianapolis Colts post-game wrap. Have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great week. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Please wear a mask. Stay safe. We'll see you after next week's game.